Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm a big fan of the show. It's been an interesting development with they're going to appoint or possibly appoint this trustee, and the Celsius creditors are upset that they're burning through the money very quickly. And it looks like they're actually going to run out of money coming up in October, and no one has been able to get any straight information out of Celsius CEO Alex Mashinsky about how much they actually owe certain creditors. In a bankruptcy proceeding, there should be a list of exactly what is owed, and that's what this investigators or examiner is going to have to come in and do, because Mashinsky hasn't provided the transparency that really he owes everyone to say how much he owes to different people. There's been so many numbers thrown out. At one point, they said they had assets of 10 billion. Other times, they're saying 4.3 billion. There's all kinds of debts that they're not. They have 50 debtors, like the top 50 debtors. Only 10 of them are known. So it could be his cousin that is one of the biggest debtors. Or we need more transparency. And I think everyone's upset that this is going to burn through probably the remaining amount of the money, and there's huge allegations of fraud.
Is that what kind of prompted the Justice Department to do that? And my question to Nick earlier had to do with how frequently or how unusual or usual is it to see an independent examiner appointed? Is the reason they're doing that because of Mashinsky's actions specifically? Has it just gotten everyone so upset that the Justice Department is saying, look, this guy is not playing ball with, he's not playing fairly with anybody, and we got to do something?
Absolutely. If he was being transparent, they would not have a need to pull in an independent examiner like this. But there is a statute in the Bankruptcy Code, 1104C, that states if there's any allegation of fraud, dishonesty, incompetence, misconduct, mismanagement, or irregularity in the management of the affairs, then they can do this, or if there's 5 million of unsecured debt. So both of those standards are met here. So since the Department of Justice is requesting this, it likely will go through.
You obviously represent crypto companies in situations that are similar. Let me ask you this: hypothetically, you're put in the hot seat and you have to talk to Celsius. What's the one thing that you'll say to them, and realistically, what will they really do?
I would say, let's be transparent, do the right thing here, stop spending exorbitant funds every day, fire all the staff, put everything on hold. Mashinsky should put his own assets into the mix and pay people back. He lied. He was under cease and desist orders from 4 different states, and he was still, promoting the earn tokens in those states. There was just a complete disregard for the regulations of, that exist around earn tokens. There was a case, back in 2014, the Shavers case, that was a similar situation where Bitcoin was being sold for a yield, and the SEC said that was an investment contract. So, since 2014, we've had case law in place saying that the activities going on here were, it is unregistered securities sales, and it looks, the allegations anyway are looking like this turned into a Ponzi scheme when the market started to implode. Mashinsky was attempting to get more and more people in so that he could use their money to pay off the other people he owed money to. So it's quite disheartening for the everyday investors that this is not regulated limited to accredited investors. This is just regular people that might not have understood the risk and took what Mashinsky was saying at face value.
Yeah. Well, would somebody like Mashinsky, who's already given us a signal of how he's going to react and behave, would he listen to your advice? Realistically,
I think we've seen enough out of that character already to know that he's after his own. He's going to do what he perceives as best for him.
Or it's all yours.
Yeah, That is a question I have, but in a different context or a different way. And it's a question I posed to another attorney recently. Would things be better or worse if Mashinsky were? I know you're doing civil law here, but when it comes to criminal law, do you think that perhaps things at least warrant potential, a trial for something he might have done? So do you think that it would be better for creditors or worse for creditors? Do creditors have an interest in keeping him on the right side of the jail cell bars?
I think it would be better. There's definitely, could be multiple opinions on this, but my own is that it would be better for the creditors for him to get charged criminally and have to, face the probe into that criminal case will show that the creditors were lied to, and it will force Mashinsky out of, his position sooner. It will cease a lot of the spending, like that ridiculous mining operation that was recently started, and it seems he thinks he's going to be able to mine his way out of this when there's companies like Bank to the Future, Simon Dixon, who's been helping the crypto community since 2010. Someone like his company could step in, or the Voyager CEO has been working very closely and transparently with this whole proceeding. So if they can get Mashinsky out of the way, then they can stop the fire sale that's going on, or the bleeding that's happening with all the assets.
Right. Okay, just switching tracks from Celsius. You talked about Tornado Cash tweeting about the sanction, and quote, you said, since the sanction is against code and not a person or entity, and the code is still running and the criminals can still use it, I'm having trouble seeing the legitimate purpose of this novel and slippery slope type of sanction. But would you agree when we ask the question, isn't it meant, this sanction, isn't it meant to be a deterrent and a chance for companies to self-censure?
Sure. Yeah, so here there is a compelling state interest to stop the Lazarus North Korea hacker group from stealing funds of Americans and American companies and government information, et cetera. There's definitely a compelling interest against against criminal actors. But there is also an argument that code is speech. Free speech is free under the First Amendment because it gets the protections that if in the face of a compelling state interest, you can restrict content, but it has to be narrowly tailored, and you can't restrict more speech than is absolutely necessary to achieve the compelling state interest. So here, Chainalysis actually put out a chart showing that of the transactions that went through the Tornado Cash mixer, only 10.5 of them were of the criminal group. So that means 90% of the transactions were done by legitimate actors. And this is free open source software. And now Americans who have no suspect of being terrorists are being limited from using this software. And, the founder or one of the creators of the software was put in jail for what other people were doing with his open source code.